After reading a very interesting article from a local Because It's Interesting magazine about a woman named Grace Moore who communicates with her late husband, young Henry Connery decided to take a trip to meet her and investigate the truth of the matter himself. According to the article, Grace Moore lived in the small town of Oak Grove. By the time Henry reached the Moore's residence, it was late in the afternoon. The weather was cloudy and cold. Within a while of knocking, Grace Moore opened the door. "Hello." "Hello, I'm Henry Connery. I've come from the BII Journal. It has come to our knowledge that your story was published in the Because It's Interesting magazine, and we were interested in reporting the details of the story." With a smile, Grace ushered Henry in. "Come in and take a seat." Young Henry Connery too politely smiled. He was just a college graduate, and at the moment unemployed. He wasn't here from a journal, but rather out of his interest in the paranormal. But to get Miss Moore's attention, he had to let out a small lie. Henry stepped inside and instantly felt a cool chill as he followed Miss Moore to the drawing room. He sat down at the sofa, noticing a young woman walk down the hall. Sitting down opposite to Miss Moore, Henry took out his notepad and asked, "So, Miss Moore, where did it all begin?" "It started about a year ago, when my husband Roger, my daughter Madeline, and I moved to this small town. We used to live in Portland, but seeking a simple, quiet life, we invested our savings in purchasing this house. We packed all our things and hired a movers to transport all our furniture and other possessions, while we took a train and traveled here. It was quite a long journey, almost 8 hours on train. And from the station, we took a cab and traveled another hour to our new home. But when we arrived that afternoon, we realized the movers had yet to make it. We found ourselves in this isolated neighborhood in an absolutely empty house. The nearest stores and shops were a 20-minute drive away, and we didn't have any transport or even a bicycle to get there. I'm going to take a look around the house." "Roger, how long are we going to have to wait? They were supposed to be here, weren't they? I think we'll have to contact them." There was a phone line in the house, but oddly it was a coin phone. So with a few quarters, we dialed up the movers, but were informed they would be a day late. "Looks like we're going to have to manage 1 or 2 days without anything." "What? Roger, we'll manage sleeping on the floor by the fireplace a couple nights, but how are we supposed to cook? There aren't any stores nearby, and all my cookware is in the truck." "Mom, Dad, there's an apple tree in the backyard and this huge pond just a walk away behind the house." So we all went to the backyard to check it out. "Is there any fish in this pond?" "This looks like a pond, but it's more like a small lake. There was possibly a flood here when this area connected with the Hood River nearby, so technically there should be fish." "Well, then maybe we can have roasted fish for dinner." "I can try fishing, but it's not as easy as it sounds." That afternoon, Roger managed to catch some crayfish and 2 other small fish, while Madeline and I picked some apples from the tree. "Roger, can you start the fire?" "Sure, honey." It was when Roger went to clean out the fireplace that he noticed some markings beneath the ash on the wooden floors. "What is this? It's been burnt onto the wood." "Looks like an Ouija board. Dad, can we play?" "All right, but let's get the fire started first." We couldn't understand the symbols or letters, but we didn't think much of it at the time. We got the fireplace started and had a rather unusual dinner with roasted fish and apples. And sometime around 9 we huddled by the fireplace on the floor trying to get some rest. "Mom, Dad, it feels like this night is everlasting." Close your eyes. Before you know it, it will be morning and hopefully the movers will be here. Why don't we play the Ouija board? I think it's better we get some sleep, Madeline. Come on, Mom. Dad, please. All right. With a few broken pieces of wood, Madeline made a planchet, and we sat by the fire to play. Roger was the first to speak out. Is there any presence around us? But the planchet was still. What will it take for us to communicate into the other realm? All of a sudden, the planchet began to move, and we were all in doubt whether it was one of us. But we soon realized it wasn't. It was happening all on its own. Dad, what was that? Maybe it was just the wind. I told you guys not to play. We were all a bit frightened, but we put it aside and tried to get some sleep that night. And it was late the next morning that the movers finally arrived. Putting some elbow grease to it, we got all our furniture set up and unpacked every box, and finally this home felt like home. In the following days, we enrolled Madeline to school and Roger arranged a second-hand car. Madeline, the school is a little far from here, so you'll have to ride your bicycle there. We rather easily coped with the new environment, and the days were going by well. Until that dark evening. Madeline, where were you? You got us so worried. Sorry, Mom, my bicycle wasn't working. Go and tell your dad you're home. I was in the kitchen when I heard Madeline shout from the backyard. Roger was on the ground, lifeless. I was devastated. I couldn't understand how it happened. Nonetheless, that evening we called for help, and the following day we arranged a funeral for him. After his death, I was heartbroken. I had so many unanswered questions, and I just wished I could speak to him one last time. The days were going by miserably, until one night while I was cleaning around the house, that I caught a glimpse of someone standing outside the window in the backyard. I saw Roger standing there looking at me. We made eye contact for just a few seconds before he vanished. At first I thought I was imagining things, but these incidents repeated itself too many times for it to be a mistake. That's when I started to think Roger was trying to communicate with me. And then it was one night, becoming desperate to speak to him, I went to the Ouija board and was shocked to see there were writings on the floor with charcoal. It said, "I love you, Grace." But that wasn't the only time. A couple nights later, it started raining heavily. I was feeling so alone. I went to the window where I saw Roger standing, and I started speaking to him. I looked into the reflection hoping to see his. Roger, can you hear me? If you're there, speak to me. I miss you. I began to cry when I saw the marks appear on the window. You're not alone. I'm still with you. Since then, I speak to him, and I know he hears me, because I hear him too. He answers me. As Miss Moore finished her story, Henry wrote down the last of his notes. Can I see the Ouija board and the place where Roger was found? Sure. Miss Moore escorted Henry to the fireplace, where he sat to take a look at the symbols, quickly jotting them down. They then went towards the back, where he got a view of the pond a walking distance away. But after it all, there was something to Miss Moore's story that just didn't seem right. Going back inside, Henry pondered a while before he asked, "Are you sure whatever you're experiencing is truly your husband? What are you trying to say?" Maybe it's not your husband, but someone else. Perhaps, seeing your depression, your daughter left you those notes as a means of solace for you. It can't be. I spoke to him. I saw him with my own eyes. Then maybe it was just a mere hallucination. There can be other explanations for this. The look on Miss Moore's face suddenly darkened. Who are you? Show me your ID. Henry suddenly became a bit nervous. Had he gotten caught in his lie? Miss Moore, I'm going to confess something to you that you're not going to like. I'm not really from the BII Journal. I have a fascination for the paranormal, and I read your story from a magazine and got curious to know more about it. So I came here. Get out. But I was really hoping you would allow me to stay here. As you said, this place is quite isolated. There is nothing nearby. Get out of my house, or I will call the police. Now where will I go? The skies were becoming dark as Henry went out into the woods behind the Moore's house, searching for a place to sit. He sat down on a log, trying to make sense out of everything Miss Moore had told him. But it was within a while that he felt the first drops of rain fall on him. Great. Just barely taking shelter under the shade of a tree, Henry tried to pass the time. But it was a while later that he started to sense something around him. He turned to notice a shadow appear, and soon realized it was a young woman. You're here? In this rain? I had a feeling you wouldn't leave, and I thought you might need this. I brought some food for you. The young woman handed Henry her umbrella and a container of food. So you're Madeline, Miss Moore's daughter. I wanted to speak to you. What my mother told you wasn't the complete story. I think you were right. Maybe the presence in our house isn't my father, but someone else. Ever since we moved here, we've been sensing a presence. And after the night of my father's death, this strange feeling only increased. My mother never used to pay heed to the supernatural, not out of disbelief or not even for fun. But now she's behaving like this. When I first saw her trying to communicate with my father, I was scared. I didn't write those notes. And deep down inside, I knew my mother wasn't making it up. There was something there. It was one day when I returned home from school. I found the house empty. My mother left a note saying she had gone to the market and would be back within a few hours. I didn't think much of it and headed to my room, when I heard her voice behind me. Mom, you're back? But there was no one there. I walked around the house. My mother wasn't home, but I kept hearing her voice. When it continued, I became so frightened. I immediately left the house and took my bicycle to the neighbors, where I requested to stay until my mother reached home. And later that night, I called her from there. Madeline, where are you? I got scared staying in the house all alone, so I came to the neighbor's house. All right, come home right now. No, pick me up. I couldn't trust what I was hearing anymore, and I only returned when my mother came herself to pick me up. From that day, I never stayed alone in the house, but the strange occurrences continued. I saw someone in the corner of my eye. I heard her voice. But the most terrifying of all experiences was the night I saw my mother standing by my door while I was in bed. Something about her wasn't right. I was too afraid to call out to her, and covered myself with a blanket, imagining she wasn't there. And the next morning, I was confirmed that there was something else lurking in our house. Mom, why were you standing by my door last night? Standing by your door, I didn't even come out of my room last night. Can you tell me which letters came on the board that night? Yes. Madeline showed Henry 3 letters that came on the board that night. I should go. It's getting late. Are you going to stay here all night? Yes, there are some things I have to figure. Hopefully everything will be resolved. Go home. After Madeline left, Henry propped up the umbrella and tried to light a small fire. Watching the rain, he had his sandwiches. He then took out his notepad again, focusing on the letters. Erase. Henry came back to his senses and looked at the letters again. Moat. He immediately got up and made his way to the Moore's house and broke in through the back door. He went to the fireplace, picking up the lighter fluid and spilling it onto the burnt letters on the floor. Hearing a noise, Miss Moore rushed out, shocked to see Henry. "What are you doing here? How dare you break into my house?" When Madeline heard her mother screaming, she hurried out to find Henry taking out a lighter, not paying heed to anything her mother said. "If you don't leave, I will call the police right now." But Henry lit the Ouija board on fire. Miss Moore rushed to put it out, when everyone froze, hearing a frightening cry from outside. Madeline and her mother stood in fear, seeing the water in the pond vigorously splash as if something were to emerge from it. What is happening? Henry made sure the fire didn't go out, watching it slowly burn the wood to coal, and as soon as it was ruined, everything fell still once again. The moment Henry stepped into the Moore's house, he sensed something wasn't right. From a first look, it seemed like an ordinary house, but there was something evil lurking within it, and he was sure this presence couldn't be her husband. Many years ago, the previous owners of this home performed rituals of black magic here. They dug a canal from the Hood River and created the pond behind the house where they summoned a demon to descend so that they could take revenge on their rivals. That night, when the family used the board, they had awoken the demon once again, unknowingly giving up a life in return. What will it take for us to communicate into the other realm? Moat, meaning death. And the day when Madeline had been late, Roger had heard a noise from behind the house, assuming she had returned. What is she doing in the woods? But it was when he went out to check that he fell prey to the Unholy Presence, a mimic demon that could take the form of another. After his death, this demon began toying with Grace, making her believe it was her husband, and toying with Madeline, appearing to her as her mother. As the night became still once again, Henry assured Miss Moore, "That unholy presence took your husband's life, but it's finally over." So, it wasn't Roger who was communicating with me? click on the subscribe button and check out more awesome videos on our channel. And don't forget to press the bell icon because you know it's interesting.